Hey everybody, welcome back to L-Man Gaming. Today I got for you, well, just chilling out and talking about the industry. I thought of a couple ideas this week for a video, but honestly, there's not much. And one thing I know for sure is, while I do want to do a video a week, I'm not going to force myself to just talk about topics that I think are just total, boring snooze fest. I'm not going to do that to me, and I'm not going to do that to you. So let's just kind of talk in a blogger kind of vlog way, whatever you want to call it, and just kind of focus on the industry and what's happening. So as you can see, I do have some Hogwarts Legacy footage in the background. I've chosen this because, if you don't know, they recently had a 40-minute gameplay showcase showing off some character creation, exploring Hogwarts Castle, and then even getting into a little bit of combat. So I was very impressed overall with what was shown, and we know for a fact now that they're going to be doing a narratively driven quest-based system versus something like Bully 2, which is like a simulation game. So they have chosen to go that route, and honestly, I'm all for it because I do believe this is the best case scenario. Because what this tells me is that they want you to slow down, right? They've put a lot of details, secrets, things to collect that they don't want you to be rushed. I mean, Bully, it's incredibly stressful. How you have to like rush through class and do this, and you're beating up people and I mean, it's fun in its own right, but right when you're talking about this kind of level of detail, right, it's more from a storytelling standpoint. So they want you to take a deep breath and go at your own pace, right? They don't want you to miss anything, and I absolutely love that. Whether or not it was ultimately the correct choice, I don't know, but I do think it's the better choice, and I do think in terms of how they're presenting the game, this is going to be a better experience for all of us to explore Hogwarts and to see what kind of cinematic moments they have in store for us. In regards to Hogwarts Legacy 2, right, they showed a lot. They did show us a lot, and kind of briefly talk about, we have seen some things that, for lack of a better word, look bad. You see the character interactions and right, with the NPCs and the facial animations. And look, it's not the greatest thing. Some are done better than others. I personally don't have a problem with it. 'Cause again, that's not why I'm playing the game. I think ultimately they've done enough that it's not going to break any kind of immersion, and it keeps you in the game world just fine. So right, there's no issue there. But I get it, right? I mean, listen, these are the kind of things that are unfortunate in the gaming world because, right, what we do is, right, we hype up these things, our anticipation is so high, and ultimately, right, we kind of let ourselves down. But that's the key point right there, right? This is something that you did, not the developers, right? I've been following this game for a while now, and I can 100% say that developers, they didn't promise anything in terms of how people are disappointed. So this shit is all kind of made up in your own head. And again, you did that to yourself, and it's not their fault. But at the same time, right, I'm not removing the criticism. There are some things that, yeah, some things I have been a little disappointed on ultimately too. But again, for the full 40 minutes, I was glued to the TV, and I've loved what I see. And again, it's still my most anticipated game. Right now, I'm actually finishing up Ragnarok. I've been playing the game now for a good bit. I'm pushing like 44 hours into it. I kind of want to get the platinum out of the way, so my review that I eventually do is just going to hold that much more credibility to it. And overall, it just seemed like an easy kind of platinum. But just to kind of like a sneak peek, it's like, hey, listen, like for my last video, yeah, I was definitely right on the money. I feel like this is going to be really close with Elden Ring. It's a very good game, but again, from what I've seen, right, Elden Ring is going to kind of squeak through and beat Ragnarok. But I am going through the game, and there are some big kind of what the heck kind of moments in terms of like choices that they've made that really have pissed me off, and I'm definitely going to be talking about that in the review. So as I've kind of mentioned before in my other videos too, I mean, one thing that's been on my mind a lot now is kind of going forward. I mean, again, we are just absolutely stacked with video games. I'm just so excited about the future. We're all going to be getting our next gen consoles worth at this point. The right Witcher 3 just got announced the next gen for December 14th. That is coming, right? Right now we're feasting on God of War Ragnarok, Witcher 3. Then we have Forspoken in January. And then February, Hogwarts Legacy, which is what you're seeing, and again, my most anticipated game. And then come March, we're dealing with Resident Evil 4 Remake, which is just going to be mind-blowing, I'm sure. And then you have April, which I'm not too sure about, but right, there's a lot of other survival horror games, Castilian Protocol, Alan Wake. I'm not exactly sure when they're coming out, but right, your backlogs are going to be pretty full at this point. And then, right, we're pushing into May, into the Breath of the Wild 2. Now, listen, I'm super excited for it. I know it's going to be a masterpiece. I know it's going to be incredible, but it's on the more, in terms of my anticipation list, anticipated games, it's on the lower end. It just is. Then we get into that June, July, and right, that is when Final Fantasy 16 should be pushing out. We should be getting that summer, around that summer holiday release. And while Hogwarts Legacy is kind of a little bit ahead just because of the universe, man, I'm telling you guys again, I keep saying that Final Fantasy 16 is just looking so good that I'm really almost want to say that I should, you know, push Hogwarts Legacy to the side and just be 100% in on Final Fantasy 16. Because again, the more I see, the more I'm learn about it and listen to the music, I'm just on board that hype train. Believe it. As this year is finally kind of winding down too, I just want to take the moment to kind of think back to the beginning of this year and how it started out. Because that's when I got my PS5. Actually, it was hell to get. Don't want to get into too many details with that, but I got it through Walmart, and yeah, ultimately I was catching up on some games, and really, it's been a slow start. In fact, if you really look at this year, I had to sum up this year in terms of video games. I really call it like a shoulder kind of season. It's like a weather term. It's like as you're getting into something like spring into summer, right? You kind of have that as like a couple weeks where it could be like really kind of cool and hot at the same time before like you finally break into that summer. So this year is like a shoulder season for PlayStation 5. You finally get these big remakes out because that's what this year has been, right? You're looking at the games in terms of graphic, fidelity versus the gameplay. And it's kind of like reached that limit where it's like, man, like I'm playing this game on the PS5 and they're still making it for the PS4, and really ultimately it plays the same and it looks a little better, and yeah, they're better kind of things happening, but this isn't what the PS5, should be defined as yet. I mean, if you look at the PS4, I mean, I think God of War was actually the pinnacle of of what Sony was really trying to do, and that was like the magnum opus for the PS4. Again, it wasn't necessarily my favorite game, but in terms of right the vision that Sony has, and like that God of War was like the pinnacle. But right then we have Horizon Forbidden West, and Elder Ring, and Ragnarok, and it's like these games are just very fucking familiar. They're very familiar, and ultimately it's like we're reaching some kind of like fatigue here, and it's like how's this industry kind of going to push out of it, and really what are we getting into like this next year? I'll promise you right now, or sorry, I'm not going to promise you anything, but I can say right now that I hope it's not going to be another shoulder-esque kind of season where these games, feel very similar to something that was playing on the PS5, but because it runs at 60 FPS and, it graphically it looks a little bit better, then I should be kissing people's asses and saying thank you so much. So really hoping we can, people can get creative and, again, push forward again because we got to break into that next gen, and I do think we're going to start seeing some of that. I think some of the games are really starting to push really ahead on some of that. I mean, even games I'm really not necessarily looking forward to too much, but excited to still play, like Forspoken. Again, falls in the same kind of trappings of some games, but man, the particle effects, like, yes, that is using the technology to an extent we haven't seen yet. Let's get crazy with it, and yeah, that's all I'm hoping for, guys. I'm pretty sure everyone's on the same boat as me, right? If you have been able to get your hands on next gen consoles, like I'm just tired of these games feeling very similar. Again, for me, I would define this year as a letdown year. I mean, I like the games, the big hitters, but ultimately they came up short. And I overhyped myself, right? I overhyped myself and thought something new was coming when in reality, right, this is just the same stuff. So that's this year. That's the tagline for me this year is 2022 will go down as a shoulder season. We're still breaking into the next gen consoles, and we're just haven't got there yet. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching the video. If you did, again, I'm not going to force myself to do videos when I don't really want to talk about specific things, or just really don't think it's even worth it to do like that video. But I still want to put out that video once a week for you. So again, just here talking about the industry, things I'm excited for, things that are happening. Thanks for sticking around, and catch you next week.